Good news, good people, good life. Los Banos today.
Good morning. My name is Jerry Knoester. I'll be your host this morning on Los Banos Today, your news in your town. And what we are going to discuss today is about Measure H. With me today, I have Kathy Ballard, owner of Baskin Robbins, and Mike Hughes, former police chief of Los Banos. But before we begin asking them a question, I want to kind of tell you what Measure H is all about. I know you received some of these flyers, mailers in the mail, at least I did, at least 4 of them, that talks about Measure H, what it's intended and what's supposed to do. It's supposed to help with this fund answer 911 calls, 911 calls, preventing of theft in residential property and auto-related crimes like burglary and robbery, protecting and maintaining 911 responses time for police officers and firefighters, protecting and maintaining anti-gang and youth violence prevention programs. The idea here with this Measure H money is to hire 7 police officers, 2 firefighters, and 1 dispatcher. And the Measure H will fund critical fire needs and our 911 emergency response time system so that firefighters can be dispatched quickly during emergency. So with me this morning here, this is what Measure H is, but we have 2 residents that are opposed to Measure H, and they will tell you why. Mike Hughes. I just said that, good morning, welcome to the show, by the way, and Kathy too. Now I mentioned that the Proposition H is supposed to help hire 7 police officers, 2 firefighters, and 1 dispatcher. So as a former police chief, what do you think about that proposal?
Well, I think that proposal would be a really good proposal if it was specifically to do that. But if you look at the way Measure H is written, and you look at how it's going to be managed, the 5 people on the city council could change that at any time. They get to change it because it's going into the general fund. If you truly wanted to hire policemen, firemen, which I think the city needs, and I'm very much in favor of that, you should have a specific tax rather than a general purpose tax, because if it was specific, then you would know as a citizen, you'd know that yes, this is going to go to hire these people.
Okay. From a business standpoint of view, Kathy, how does that affect business on the increase of tax?
Any kind of increase that takes money away from our residents, where 50% of them make below the poverty wage, is going to impact any retail business. It will also cause more people to go to the internet or shop out of town and have it delivered to them, which you can do for a major rehaul of your landscaping. You can purchase it out of town and have them deliver it at a lower sales tax.
Okay. You're talking about sales tax. Right now, our city has 8.25% of our sales tax. This is going to increase by 8.75.
Which will be the highest in the area.
Yes, we have about 19 cities in Merced County, and it ranges from 7.75 to 8.25, including Merced and Los Banos. With the approval of Measure H, our tax rate will go from 8.25 to 8.75, which will be the highest tax in the county of Merced, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. And if you want to know more specifically about the entire language of Measure H, it is written as Exhibit A, as a city ordinance, and I know that you receive a county voter information guide that looks just like this. Now, if you go to page 17, from that point, it will talk to you about the impartial analysis from our city manager, City Attorney Vaughn, and then it also goes in detail about Measure H, the specific language there, and arguments for and argument against. And Kathy's rebuttal is also listed in here. Am I correct on that one?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And I want to also bring up what you just read when you opened the show.
Mm-hmm.
This is all propaganda from the city.
Propaganda.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that is not what the measure reads. The measure reads to collect a tax used for any lawful purpose out of the general fund. Now, there is, the city has delegated, but all of that can be changed by the city council. which is 5 people who have control over that money. They say they have an oversight committee. The oversight committee has to go exactly as that measure is read, not, and they can make recommendations. They are not the ones to enforce and say, no, you can pay this, this, and this. That's up to those 5 people on your council. That'll change over the next 15 years.
So the Oversight Committee will be looking at what was expended, what was used for after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
And this will be in conjunction with the yearly audit review.
Correct.
So they're going to review, are they going to be oversighting the review, the annual review, or whatever it is that the measure was used for, the money was used for?
I haven't been, I've been on
Okay.
lots of committees
Uh-huh.
with the city, but I've never been on an oversight committee.
Mhm.
So I'm not completely clear on what exactly, where they step in. But I know that they have to go by what the measure actually reads.
Not what this propaganda, you might
No.
say, is said, right? What the actual measures read. And if you want to read again what the actual measure says, please go to your county voter information guide. There is explicitly says what the measure is all about. Also, the Oversight Committee, I believe it consists of 5 city residents.
I haven't seen what the Oversight
Mhm.
Committee is going to consist of, but
Mhm.
I can tell you that the Oversight Committee will not have any authority to change what the city council.
Correct. Mhm.
And we live in a city that the mayor is elected every 2 years. The city councils the city councilmen are elected every 4 years, but their terms split. So once every 2 years, you could change 3 seats on that council. 3 people on that council could vote to change it, and they could say they want to put anything that they desire, they could use this money for. This goes on for what is it, 15 years?
15
I think it's
years.
15 years.
Mhm.
So for 15 years, this could be changed. Every 2 years, it could be changed because of the way the way that the people on the council. So you'd have to have faith that the council members would do what they want to do. I mean, they do what the citizens really want to have. Everybody, no matter where you go today, everybody is concerned about public safety.
Mhm.
They're concerned that they want to be able to have. They want to be able to have a police officer come when they call.
Mhm.
They want to be able to have the paramedics show up when they call, the ambulance, the firefighters. And we need more, but I think we need to look at the way the things have been spent in Los Banos in the past few years, and maybe it just hasn't been done the way that the people really would like to see it done. Maybe things could have been done a lot different. There's a lot of ways, and I get truly frustrated because every time we've overspent, we just say, well, we'll make another tax and we'll charge people more. We have civil things that the code enforcement is doing now, and they just, oh, you did this wrong, so now it's going to cost you X number of dollars. You can't just keep throwing dollars at a problem and hope that it fixes itself. You've got to actively look at where the problem exists, and if the problem exists in management, then maybe management needs to be changed if they're not managing correctly. And I don't know, because I'm not involved in government. I don't know what they're doing, but it just doesn't have the look that I'd like to see. That I know where my tax money is going. I'm not opposed to spending the half-cent sales tax, but it needed to be specifically to something that they couldn't change. That these 5 people can't just decide. They get the money, now they can decide whatever they want to do with it. And if you read that the wording in the proposition, in the measure, if you go down to the bottom of it, it says that they can spend it any way they want.
Let me just go to that point right now that you're talking about, and this can be found again in your voter's guide, and specifically it'll be on, I got it highlighted here and see where it says in here.
I don't know where it is in the book. I read it online
I got
for
it
the
here.
exact measure.
I just got to find my highlighted point right in here. Use of proceeds. Okay, so that will be listed in Exhibit A under subchapter 3-12.2.16 entitled Use of Proceeds. And let me read it what it says right in here then. The proceeds from the tax imposed by this ordinance shall be for unrestricted general revenue purpose of the city and shall be received into the general fund of the city. Correct? Okay. So what you're saying that right now, since this is not a specific fund, but a general fund, that the city, for what they deem governmental use, you might say, they can use it for that purposes instead of what the intended of Measure H has said.
Well, quick, the majority of the police officers and firefighters come out of the general fund.
Yes.
So that is a general fund is a place where they're paid for. And they can use the money for police and fire. But they can also use it for, they could decide they want to have a swimming pool, have a swimming pool. Everybody would like to have a swimming pool. And I agree. I mean, a swimming pool would be very, very nice. But you have to figure out where it needs to be spent and manage what we do. You need to look at the, we've taken a lot of city services that used to be city service and we've put them out to bid and we've let other companies do it. Is that really cost effective or isn't it cost effective? I can tell you looking back here, I've lived in Los Banos since 1972. And I look at the way the trees were downtown, the way the trees were all over town, and they were always meticulously taken care of. Today, you drive around, you can find, in the city's landscaping, you can find dead trees, you can find landscaping that's not being maintained. And is that really the way we want to portray our city? We
mentioned earlier about the Oversight Committee, and I just found it here that the City Council will appoint 5 residents. So the City Council will appoint 5 residents on that one, and they will oversee whatever they're supposed to be overseeing at as well, too.
It isn't supposed to be chosen until after the measure.
After the measure.
But there's also rumors that those have already been picked.
Do you think this program is sort of like a debate and switch? Here, it's promised the pie in the sky, the propaganda, like you say, and all of a sudden, when it's passed, the city government can say, oops, we're going to use it for somewhere else.
That's very true. And whether you call it a bait and switch, you're voting to give the city a half cent on every dollar spent, and they can spend it any way they want in the general fund. They can tell you what they're going to do with it, but they don't have to follow that guidelines because they can change that.
We talk about, when I read it in here time, and I think what City Attorney was saying, that at the time the measure was written, the City Council also made a resolution that they will use specifically these funds for what it's intended, what they say they will be, for firefighters' safety, protection of the citizens, 911, so forth like that. What do you think about that resolution then?
Well, I believe that's like everything else that the City Council does. They can make a new resolution that says something different. And if you watch this this council take effect in what they've done, everything that's wrong, people keep asking, why are we building so many houses? Well, they blame it on the people before them. Well, I think after 12 years, you've got to start taking some responsibility for what's going on in the city, because you've been a few of them have been on that council for 12 years. And you can't keep blaming somebody else. All of us. I remember when I remember a gentleman that I really had a lot of respect for that was in the city. One of my old bosses told me, he says, "Yeah, if you ever become the police chief, what you do is you write 3 envelopes, and first one is as soon as you have a problem, you blame the guy that was there before you. When you have the second problem, you blame the guy that was there before you. When you get to the third problem, you make 3 envelopes for the next police chief because you can't keep blaming somebody else. You have to own the responsibility of the job that you're in.
The buck stops here.
Right.
Okay.
And so I just feel that that's not what they're doing. It's always anytime, and I went to the meeting when they were planning to put this on there, and I specifically told them, I thought if they made a specific tax I would be happy to go door to door with people to explain why we did it, because now we know where this money is going. And, I can't speak for Kathy, but I think she'd feel the same way. If we know what we're getting and we can be assured that that's what we're going to get, that there's no way to change it, I think people would feel a lot better about it. But when you've seen the actions before that have happened in the city, and they want to blame somebody else for doing it, they don't want to own any responsibility for it.
Now, if the city council reneges on their promises of what they said they would, is there a chance to recall the city council or to vote them out, or what?
I read that on post on the Yes on H, and it was mentioned that we could do that.
Mhm.
Does anyone realize how long it takes to recall somebody? The money is set for 15 years. It's too late to change that. So recalling or voicing your opinion or anything like that, to me, is the proverbial brick wall. Because it's not going to change anything. Yes, you can show your being upset. I've done it quite a few times at the city council. And mind you, sometimes there's only 3 people in the audience that are listening to me say that this isn't right. Really hard. They've tried to replace city managers before. That never happened. They've tried to remove people sitting on the dais. That never happened. It was a rant, and then it was gone. So I wouldn't put all my hopes on taking
recall
somebody
something
out.
You talk about a recall. A recall is that's a great thought process. Do you know how much money that would cost?
Huge.
It would cost the city a enormous amount of money to put on a special election to have the recall. It would cost, the school district had one of those not too long ago, and the cost was astronomical to the citizens. You're again, when you talk recall, you're talking about spending more money that
Yeah.
we don't have. If we don't have enough money to manage what we have now, and we're just trying to find ways to get other money, I think that we need to. I think you need to look at ways to find your sources of funding other than just throwing a tax at it. And I think that I don't feel that the correct amount of thought and preparedness went in before they decided to do this.
Okay. You said about the city not having enough money. There are people on pension and fixed income, Social Security, and I believe this is the first time that Social Security recipient will get an increase, a small increase. I think it's 2.9 or something like that. How will that affect that increase versus with this 0.5% increase?
I don't think it affects it at all.
No, it doesn't.
No, I mean, what I'm saying, I guess what I'm trying to say is, okay, we're going to get an increase in our Social Security, but now we're going to have to pay more for services and commodities, so it's going to
Well,
eat
I
up.
guess your increase isn't that big, is
It's
it?
not big either. Exactly. Yeah.
You have to look at something else. The federal government is going to give you a 2.9% increase in your Social Security, and your Medicare is going to go up 3%.
Yeah.
So that you're going to be in the negative anyway. You're not going to get money. And when you talk about Social Security, what has the government done with Social Security? They've borrowed all this money from it, and they've never paid it back. They have no intent, and now they're telling you that it's an entitlement. So, I don't think Social Security is the place to look at at ways to fix anything. But
No,
I
right.
think that a lot of people that are on fixed incomes, if they have to pay an extra 0.5 cent every time they spend $1, it's going to be, because some of them just barely are making it.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
these things are truly a problem. And you look at the cost to the city. I mean, the city is getting a lot of increased cost, but you've got to figure ways to make these things work. And I believe, and I truly believe this, and I've said it from the beginning, that I think we need more police and fire. And I believe that we need to do it in a way that is specifically for that. You know, that the money specifically goes to that, not that it's got a resolution, because people that sit on councils, and I've watched it for many years, they change their mind. They change what they're going to do things. You know, I can tell you that we got money when I was the police chief from certain funding through the county. We got money, and then they backed money out of the general fund, out of my budget, so that we would. I still had the same number of dollars that I had before. So it wasn't a windfall that I could do something with, because they take something from somewhere else, and it's and that's been a typical use of city money for years. It's you move it around.
Go ahead.
I think going back to why it isn't a specific tax, they chose this type of measure because it only needed, what is it called?
50%.
50%.
Yeah, a simple majority, where a specific tax needed 2/3 of the vote.
Right.
And so they went with the easier route
The path
and
of
tried
least
to
resistance.
finagle, yes. So that out of, I don't know how many people vote, 3,000 on the last, no, maybe 4.
No, about 3.
About 3. So out of 3,000 people, they only need 1,501 to pass this to tax a whole community. And the path of least resistance
Exactly.
is what they did. And so they're trying to make that work. They're trying to put something through without a majority of the people agreeing with it.
How was this increase affect the shop local slogan that we've been promoting?
They, if they can get it for 1% lower every place else or on the internet with 0 sales tax, of course they're going to do it. The people aren't stupid.
They'll shop
They're
online.
Exactly.
And they'll go to
Until-
different cities like Merced to buy the products over there,
Exactly.
the service over there, and avoid the taxes that we're trying to keep in here.
Yeah.
It goes out like a leakage.
And if I believe everything that is mailed to my house, I've received ones that say I have 11 point something million dollars in reserve. I have another one that says that since they've been in office, crime is down. It depends on what they want to present to the public. It's always going to be tweaked to something to have that impression.
Do you think this 0.5% also will kind of scare new businesses that want to come down here and relocate or set up shop?
I can't say for other businesses. I came here 20 plus years ago because I fell in love with the community. And that's the reason. I had a choice between here and up towards Sonora. I fell in love with the people here. And that's why I built a business here.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. I just think that I look at my own coming to Los Banos. I came to Los Banos in 1972. My intent was to stay here a year and move on to somewhere else. I fell in love with the people of Los Banos, the community. I worked for almost 31 years for the city. I retired, and I haven't left, and I have no intention to leave. My children both work in the city. They both live here. My grandchildren are all here. I get to see, I have the best of all worlds. I get to see my grandchildren every day if I want to. And I get to be involved in their school programs and things like that. So this is a great community. But I just have some issues with the way they try to manage things. And I think that they need to they need to get the community behind them, and they need to get the support of the community and not just tell what somebody else did that caused all the bad things that are happening here. Because I think you have to, if you're going to be in a position, you have to own the position, and you have to own the responsibility for both the good and the bad. And I did that when I was a police chief. If things weren't going good, it was my fault. It wasn't the other people, because it's always the leadership which is
Mhm.
where things go to. So I think that it's the leadership needs to maybe get a little more in tune with what the community really wants.
So to recap a little bit from what I understand from Measure H, the city's trying to increase our tax rate from 8.25 to 8.75, and they're trying to generate $2.5 million a year for the next 15 years. 2.5 times 15 roughly equates to $37 million in today's money. With inflation, it'll probably be more. The money's not going to a specific fund earmarked, fenced in for the measure that it says it would be for police, for fire, and for safety, but instead it's going to the general funds, which conceivably could be used for other government institution or government IDs or programs or projects that they deem necessary. Am I correct on that one? What you're
Yes.
saying? Okay. So it's not case specific to police, fire, and safety, but it can be used for something else too. Also, the city council has made a resolution in conjunction with this written of the measurement that they resolve that the money will be earmarked specifically for what it says they can do. Yes, you can also recall a councilman or vote them out if they so deviate from what they propose to do. But like you say, that it costs a lot of money for the city to make that effort to happen, which hasn't happened yet for the time you've been here for all this time.
Right. Well, let me add one other thing that I've had as an observation through the years. Nobody really wants to run for public office anymore because of the way that everybody gets slammed. You don't find a lot of people jumping up. Just look at the elections today. I mean, not only here but in the national elections. Our country is so divided that there's nobody that has a half an ounce of common sense wants to be involved in politics today.
Mhm.
And I don't know where it's going to go, but you're a lot of elections today, and not in the city of Los Banos, because fortunately in Los Banos we have some really decent people running for office, and I think the people that are there today are decent people, but they just gotta look at what really needs to happen and maybe step back and take another look at. But nationwide, you're voting for the lesser of the two evils, we're making. California is a great place because we're making high-speed rails. We don't know where they're going. The tracks won't carry the train fast, but we're going to have a high-speed rail. We just don't know where it's going. And we're having all kinds of other things that are just, if you drive down the freeways, you knock your teeth out because all the roads are so bad. But we're going to invest in a high-speed rail. I don't think we're looking at the correct priorities to do what we need to have.
Okay. If you want to know more information about Measure H, please, I urge you then, or I encourage you to go to Google and just Google, and I found a thing called ballot media. And in that ballot media, it talks about Los Banos Measure H, sales tax for November, so you can read up on that thing. You can also go to the city website, which is losbanos.org, and scroll down to where it talks about Measure H. You'll find more information about that as well. Then if you actually will go to your county voter information guide, starting on page 17, it will give you specific detail of the language of Measure H as a city ordinance. It will answer a lot of your questions and concerns, as well as read the flyers, quote, propaganda. What you received in the mail, it talks about the for Measure H. Is there anything else you would like to add, Kathy? Or
That's it.
that's it? Well, then I want to thank you for joining us on Los Banos today, your news in your town
Thank
on
you.
Measure H. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.